for us. So add 1, add 1. So when I think about the change in y, which is 10, over the change in x, which is 1, what is the slope of my line? What is 10 over 1? It's just 10. Absolutely. Okay. What does this represent in the y equals mx plus b? Say that loudly. It represents the y-intercept. How can I find the y-intercept? Look at one of your, oh, yes, ma'am. Yeah, your y-intercept happens when x is 0. That's when it happens. So this ordered pair right here is the ordered pair that represents the y-intercept. So what is my y-intercept? It's -1. Aiden, write the equation for me. We know what our slope is and we know what our y-intercept is. What's that going to look like? 10x. And instead of writing plus a negative, we're just going to say -1. Y equals 10x minus 1. I think that your first question already has the y equals there for you. You're going to type that in. You're going to type that in. Go to your next question. We're going to do the first 3 together. Go to your next question. Okay, so your second question looks like this. We still have to write an equation in the form y equals mx plus b. So the first thing that we have to do is figure out what's happening on the y side and then put it over what's happening on the x side. So, Ariana, what's happening to y? Am I adding something or taking something away? Are the numbers getting bigger or are they getting smaller? They're negative, so they're getting smaller, right? So I'm subtracting something. What am I subtracting? What is the difference between 14 and 9? I'm subtracting 5 each time. Subtracting 5 each time. Subtracting 5. Andrew, what am I doing on the x-axis? What do I do to go from 1 to 2? What am I adding? Adding 1. To go from 2 to 3, I'm also adding 1. 3 to 4, adding 1. So my slope is my change in y over my change in x equals -5 over 1. So what can I write for my slope? Can I just write that as -5? I sure can. My slope is -5. Okay, so this table doesn't have the x equals 0 in it. Let's see. What if I went backwards? What if instead of taking the ordered pair 1, -9, what if instead of adding 1 to it, I went backwards and I subtracted 1? What is 1 minus 1? Marco, what is 1 minus 1? 0. So if I'm going to work backwards, I have to use the opposite operation on both sides. Braden, what is the opposite of -5? So what is -9 plus 5, Peter? What is -9 plus 5? -4. So what is my y-intercept? B equals -4. I'm doing all of this just by using a table. All righty. So Riley, equation. Perfect. Y equals -5x minus 4. Absolutely perfect. Y equals -5x minus 4. Okay. Raise your hand if you need more time with that. All right, can I go on? Next. Find the equation of the linear function represented by the table below. So again, we're writing an equation that models y equals m times x plus b. And I need to figure out my slope first. So what am I doing to -6 to make it equal -2? Or what am I doing to -2 to make it equal +2? I'm adding 4 each time. Thank you, Braden. That's perfect. Adding 4 each time. What am I doing on the x-axis? -1 plus what gives me +3? I'm adding 4 each time. I'm adding 4. Do you guys see that? So here our slope is going to look a little bit different. Remember, your slope is your change in y over your change in x. My change in y is 4, and my change in x is 4. So what does that make my slope? 1. That means my slope is 1. Okay, that means my slope is 1. We have to find the y-intercept. We have to find the y-intercept here. And I'm going to take part of my table. I'm going to take the 3, 7 part of my table and the -2, 2 part of my table. This is just part of my table. So this says a slope of 1 means that each time you can add 1 on the y side and you can add 1 on the x side to get the next order pair. That's what that says. Well, we need to work backwards. So if I were to subtract 1, that would tell me what happens when x is 2. What is my output when x is 2? I have to subtract 1 on the y side. What's -2 minus 1? It's -3. I have to keep going. What if I subtract 1 on the x side? That gives me an input of 1, but then I have to subtract 1 on the y side. That gives me an output of -4. I have to do it again because I need to find out what happens when x is 0. So I'm going to subtract 1. That gives me an input of 0. Subtract 1 on the y side gives me an output of -5. So that tells me that b equals -5. That tells me that b equals -5. So I know my slope. I know m is 1. And I know my y-intercept, b equals -5. Equation. Elisha, what's the equation? So m is the number that gets attached to your x. What's m? What does it say m is? I just underlined it really dark. M is what? M is 1. Do you see that? So y equals 1x minus 5. That is my equation. Y equals 1x minus 5. I'm going to give you guys until 10 o'clock to finish you have 6 questions that you need to do on your own. 6 questions that you need to do on your own for your warm-up.